of modern-day policing can be traced back to the slave patrol. The earliest formal slave patrol was created in the Carolinas in the early 1700s with one mission: to establish a system of terror and squash slave uprisings with the capacity to pursue, apprehend, and return runaway slaves to their owners. Tactics included the use of excessive force to control and produce desired slave behavior. To police is to maintain law and order, but the word derives from police, the Greek for city, and it entered English from the Middle French police, which meant not constables but government. The police, as a civil force charged with deterring crime, came to the United States from England and is generally associated with monarchy, keeping the king's peace, which makes it surprising that in the anti-monarchical United States, it got so big so fast. The reason? Mainly slavery. Slave patrols continued until the end of the Civil War and the passage of the 13th Amendment. Following the Civil War, during Reconstruction, slave patrols were replaced by militia-style groups who were empowered to control and deny access to equal rights to free slaves. They relentlessly and systematically enforced black codes, strict local and state laws that regulated and restricted access to labor, wages, voting rights, and general freedoms for formerly enslaved people. In 1868, ratification of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution technically granted equal protections to African Americans, essentially abolishing black codes. Jim Crow laws and state and local statutes that legalized racial segregation swiftly took their place. By the 1900s, local municipalities began to establish police departments to enforce local laws in the East and Midwest, including Jim Crow laws. Local municipalities leaned on police to enforce and exert excessive brutality on African Americans who violated any Jim Crow law. Jim Crow laws continued through the end of the 1960s. The criminal justice system is heavily impacted by the bias of police mentality and outdated judicial precedents. The system is largely driven by racial disparities, and the black community continues to be a target. The results are brutal and long-lasting. In 2020, there were 1,021 fatal police shootings, and in 2019, there were 999 fatal shootings. Additionally, the rate of fatal police shootings among Black Americans was much higher than that for any other ethnicity, standing at 35 fatal shootings per million of the population as of March 2021. Since 2005, 104 non-federal law enforcement officers have been arrested in connection with fatal on-duty shootings. To date, only 35 of these officers have been convicted of a crime, often a lesser offense such as manslaughter or negligent homicide rather than murder. Only 4 officers have been convicted of murder during this period and seen their convictions stand. Another 23 officers were acquitted in a jury trial, and 9 were acquitted during a bench trial decided by a judge. 11 other cases were dismissed by a judge or a prosecutor, and in one instance, no true bill was returned from a grand jury. Today's policing? Just history repeating itself with only a few deviations. And if you didn't know, now you know.